live from historic Laverne Park in Los Angeles, California. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. It's Monday, so Dr. Cornel West kicks us off on the top side of hour 2. Whole lot to talk to him about. On the B side of hour 2, Shawn Harris is the Democrat who lost the race for Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat in Georgia, but he pulled off the biggest shift yet for Democrats in these special House races and sent a strong message to Republicans in advance of this year's midterms. We'll talk to Shawn Harris on the backside of hour 2. In our third hour, 2 more conversations. Up first, fighting for a foothold, how government and markets undermine black middle-class suburbia. The author of that text, Dr. Angela Sims, joins us today. And then on the B side of hour 3, Jenique Jones, executive director of Why Hunger, comes live in studio to explain why hunger is not inevitable and how wage equity, profit investment, or reinvestment, I should say, and updated poverty thresholds could strengthen food security in this country, the U.S. of A. But in this first hour, let's talk politics and more with Connie Rice, the legendary civil rights attorney and towering public intellectual. All right, Connie, stand by just for a second. Let me just give you the rundown. It seems that every time Connie shows up, it's not famine, it's feast. There is so much to get to in this 1 hour. I'm going to try to squeeze all this into 1 hour. Let me tell you where we're going, though. As you heard, the peace talks failed in Islamabad. I'm going to start with J.D. Vance in just a second, Miles. Donald Trump then, when J.D. Vance returns, announces a blockade. The blockade started, as I sit here right now, the blockade started just over 90 minutes ago. So far, no drama in the first 90 minutes, but I don't quite get this. So Iran is blocking their own strait, and now we got a blockade of their blockade. It makes no sense, but it started 90 minutes ago. So far, as I sit here live in L.A., no drama at the moment. We shall see. That's issue number 2. Issue number 3, Kamala Harris said over the weekend that she is considering running for president again. We'll talk about that. And then the Pope has now responded to Donald Trump, and I've got sound of the Pope on his plane. So there are just 4 things I'm going to try to get to all in this first hour. I start with J.D. Vance and these failed talks in Islamabad. Here's your vice president.
The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could, and they have chosen not to accept our terms. The enrichment facilities that they had before, they've been destroyed. But the simple question is, do we see a fundamental commitment of will for the Iranians not to develop a nuclear weapon, not just now, not just 2 years from now, but for the long term? We haven't seen that yet. We hope that we will.
From the outset, Connie, I thought this was a fool's errand, and what I mean by that is simply this. There is no way, to my mind, that you can resolve tensions at this level in one day. Who thought on either side of this that they could resolve this in 21 hours, Connie Rice? We start with that.
Well, you have a fool's errand, you send a fool, right?
But
we got a whole White House of them, right? Oh, this clown car just gets worse and worse. So, 22 hours of negotiation. I mean, it's historic. This is the first face-to-face Iranian official to American official meeting in 47 years. Let's not, let's take a pause on that. Mm-hmm. But this was more performative nonsense from the RICO operation we call the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. So the Obama Treaty, let's go back to where this all started. The Obama Treaty, which actually created a structure to contain and restrain Iran's administration of its uranium and other nuclear fission material, to keep it from going to the highest level of being able to create a bomb, right? So there was control over the centrifuges. You had the UN coming in. There was a whole regime of controls that Iran agreed to, the UN agreed to, the United States agreed to. Tavis, it was working. It was working because Iran was not on its way to developing a bomb, and it did allow the inspections. Now, it did stray from them. Long story short, Trump comes in, and because Obama got this treaty, he immediately tore it up with nothing to replace it. So Trump releases the Iranians from the constraints of the Obama treaty. They go ahead and start re-enriching because they say we can do it for civil purposes. They ratchet it up because Trump can't get the Iranians to do what he wants them to do. He keeps banging the drum of, you don't do what I say. And here we are. Mm-hmm. He's on the verge of tripping off World War III. So he starts a war to fix something that was already fixed. He not only doesn't contain the Iranian nuclear stuff, it's worse. Now the Strait of Hormuz is blockaded. It wasn't blockaded before the war. Everything was fine. Oil prices are going through the roof, and he has nothing to show for this. So he's boxed himself in. Sending Vance to talk for 22 hours, it might be a start, Tavis, but it's a faltered start.
Connie laid that out brilliantly and eloquently, as she always does. I'd only add one piece to it. He didn't do this by himself. We all know, we discussed it last week, Bibi Netanyahu went to the White House, to the Situation Room, to convince Donald Trump to do this. And as you recall last week when I shared the news with you that was literally breaking at that time, Donald Trump said, sounds like a good idea to me. Sounds doable to me. That's what Donald Trump said in the Situation Room to Bibi Netanyahu. Sounds good to me. We can do this. So again, everything Connie said is correct. Just don't leave Bibi Netanyahu out of this and the role that he played in convincing Donald Trump to get us in this mess. Just getting started with Connie Rice. Lots to cover in this first hour. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
BET and PBS, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and NPR, the cover of Jet and the cover of Time. #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, 20 honorary doctorate degrees, a dozen NAACP Image Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. From talk shows to talk radio, nobody's ever done it better. You like that? This is Tavis Smiley.
Can we just talk?
Tavis Smiley.
You've heard me say it before, how we talk to one another matters. Earlier this year, we launched our first cohort, and I'm grateful to those who leaned in early and helped to shape the work. Now I'm inviting you to join me for a new live seminar, The Practice of Dialogue, Becoming a More Effective Communicator. This is a small group experience designed to help you strengthen how you communicate in your work, your relationships, and your everyday life. Space is limited to keep the experience personal and interactive. So if you're ready to take your communication to the next level, now is the time to focus on the skills that make conversations meaningful. The new 4-week cohort begins Monday, May 4th, and there's a nice discount for early bird registrants. Visit TavisTalks.com to learn more and reserve your place today. That's TavisTalks.com, because better conversations don't just happen, we practice them.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
You know, 5 years goes fast when you're doing something you love. 5 years of being right there with you, in your car, in your kitchen, at work, in your earbuds. And we don't take that for granted, not for a second. When it came time to celebrate our 5th anniversary, we knew it had to mean something. And we're celebrating on the most fitting day there is, Juneteenth. We're still putting the finishing touches on something really special, and before we tell the world, we want to tell you first. Once we announce this event publicly, we expect that seats are going to go fast, really fast. So, go to our website right now at KBLA1580.com and sign up to make sure you're the very first to hear what we've got planned, before we go public with all the details. You've been riding with us. It's only right you're first to know. KBLA1580.com. We'll see you on Juneteenth for our 5th anniversary banger. Banger, banger, banger.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app? Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that catch-up.
Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Connie Rice kicking off today's program. In case you've just tuned in, I mentioned there are at least four issues I want to cover in this hour, just getting started. We played a clip a moment ago of Vice President J.D. Vance speaking about these failed peace talks in Islamabad. They got together 21, 22 hours. Nothing comes of it. I said a moment ago that it's hard to imagine anybody thought that you could resolve these tensions in a meeting in one day. But here we are with J.D. Vance reporting that nothing came out of these talks, and so he came back home. We're going to talk in a moment about Donald Trump and this blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Kamala Harris over the weekend announced she's thinking about running for president again. And Pope Leo has responded to Donald Trump. Can't wait to get to that. So, Connie, as I mentioned a moment ago, so J.D. Vance comes home. There's no deal in these talks, and Donald Trump says, okay, we're moving forward with this blockade. I'm going to play Donald Trump talking about the blockade first, and then Connie and I will unpack that.
We have a blockade going into effect. That'll be 10 o'clock tomorrow. Other nations are working so that Iran will not be able to sell oil, and that will be very effective. I think Iran is in very bad shape. I think they're very desperate. We had a meeting that lasted 21 hours. We understand the situation better than anybody, and Iran's in very bad shape. And just so you understand, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Will not have. There is no way that they're going to get. They still want it, and they made that clear the other night. Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Oh, I don't know. I don't care if they come back or not. If they don't come back, I'm fine. Their military is gone. Their missiles are largely depleted. The manufacturing capability for missiles and drones is largely defeated. We've been very nice. We haven't ripped down too many bridges. We did one only because they broke their word. They broke their promise. And remember, their promise was that they were going to open the Hormuz Strait. They didn't do it. They lied.
So there's your president yesterday suggesting that the blockade would take effect today, Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We are obviously past that time, and so the blockade is now in effect. Donald Trump continues to lie, as he does all the time. But you heard in that clip his suggesting that other countries were supporting us in this. Not true. None of these European countries have agreed to get involved in this skirmish at the moment. And so they've all rejected involvement in this particular move. So this is us. This is us blocking the strait. But kind of, as I said a moment ago, somewhat tongue-in-cheek. So Iran is making clear that they control the strait. So they got their own sort of blockade, as it were. And now we got a blockade against their blockade. Can you make any of this make sense?
Yeah, so obliterated, destroyed, completely razed to the ground. Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, make sense of that. Okay, so aside from the president, who sounds like your drunk uncle at Thanksgiving, let's get a perspective on this. The Strait of Hormuz does have to be open. Right now, Iran is only letting its favored nations through. The problem is that the United States has all this big hardware and ships. They can do a blockade. A naval blockade is something that they can do. And it actually makes sense to tell Iran, which is making a lot of money. You know, Trump has helped in this war. Trump has helped all of our enemies, Iran, Russia, China, and it's hurt all of our allies. I mean, that's Trump for you. But a blockade is actually something militarily that makes sense. You either blockade so that no one can get through and Iran gets choked and is forced to open up the Strait of Hormuz. That's probably the most sensible military tactic in response to this that can be made in a situation that puts the United States and the president in a box that he made.
This box that he made, that he is now in, I don't know at the moment, at least, how he gets out of it. I guess the ultimate question at the moment is whether or not these Iran fast attack ships, as they call them, approach any of these U.S. ships that are now in the blockade. Let me just tell you why I'm raising this. Donald Trump has been very clear in saying, and I'm obviously quoting from him, that he said on social media today that any Iranian ship that approaches the blockade will be immediately eliminated. Immediately eliminated. This is high stakes. It's as if with this blockade, the president is taunting Iran and asking for something to happen here, Connie. Is there any other way to read this other than a taunt?
I don't know that he thinks that strategically, Tavis.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in his mind, he has to make a big, fake, masculine-looking, wrestle, pound. He's got to be this macho Rambo nonsense, right? And that's what his instincts go to.
Yeah.
His military, on the other hand, knows all of the dangers of epic folly, this operation that he calls Epic Fury. And they're trying to contain him to stuff that won't get us further down a wormhole of destruction. Because let's back up. There's no reason for this to have happened at all.
Mm-hmm.
Between Lindsey Graham and Netanyahu pushing, sort of feeding his ego, oh, you were great in Venezuela. You can do Venezuela and Iran. That's something that no president has ever done. You could just see them feeding his pathetic ego. That's why we're in this mess. And right now we've spent $80 billion, and the goal is to get back to the day before he launched this war. That's how absurd this is. And it's as you said, it's worse than a tinderbox. This could actually have lit the fuse if it went really badly wrong to World War III, because you're going to have to get China. You've got Russia. I mean, this is let's just keep in mind how terminally stupid all of this is. Yeah. Now that we're in this stupidity, the best outcome can be that the strait opens and that you let things calm down and you get an international agreement that controls the Strait of Hormuz. You give Iran the resources for it to recover and get back to a state where it can actually negotiate about its nukes. But Tavis, I have a question, which is, have we ever stopped a country from getting nuclear weapons? We didn't stop North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't stop, I think Israel, France, Great Britain, they all have secret nukes. Is there? I may be missing the example. If there is an example, it's like one country. But I don't think anyone has been able to contain nuclear power once a country decides to go get it, and ignores the fact that the nukes problem is going to look like Sunday school compared to the AI threat for warfare.
Yeah.
These super brain AI agents that people are talking about, they can actually launch a war on their own.
Yeah. I think you're right. We haven't stopped any country. And I would add to the list that you ran down a moment ago, Israel. We didn't stop them either. And I've said more times than I can count over the course of my career, I have always been bothered by the fact, and bothered isn't a strong enough word, but always troubled by the fact that we get to be the arbiter of who gets a nuclear weapon. Like, how did we appoint ourselves as God, and we get to decide who in the world gets access to a nuclear weapon? I don't know how we became, again, the person in charge of making that particular decision, but it troubles me. And that's not to suggest that there aren't rogue nations on the globe. Indeed, there are. But how we, sort of self-appointed ourselves, we always say we are not the world's policemen, except in this regard. In this regard, we are the world's policemen. We decide unilaterally who gets a nuclear weapon, and you heard Connie sort of run the list. I digress on that for now. Speaking of who made us God, we're going to get to this in a moment. I should have said it earlier, but again, so much on my desk right now to move through with Connie in this hour. I don't know that you have seen the post. If you haven't, I encourage you to Google it right now. So before Connie and I get to it, you will have already seen it. You got your fingers ready? Donald Trump posted a photo of himself depicted as Jesus. It's a photo all over the internet right now. Google it, find it right quick, so you know I'm not making this up. On Truth Social, Donald Trump has posted a picture of himself as Jesus laying hands on people, healing the sick, with the shine all about his head, the glow. He's posted himself as Jesus. Why do I raise this? I'm getting there. I'm just teeing it up now. It was bad enough what he posted on Easter Sunday, the holiest day on the Christian calendar, and the Christian right said nothing about that. Then he went after the Pope, and the religious right said nothing about that. We'll play in a moment for you the Pope's response to Donald Trump coming after him. And now he's posted himself depicted as Jesus. And the Christian right has still, if that ain't blasphemy, if that ain't idolatry, I don't know what is. And they still ain't said nothing about Donald Trump. I've asked this question repeatedly. What does he have to do for the right, the Christian, the religious so-called right, to say or do anything? We'll get to that in a second here. I'm just sort of teeing that up. So you've got these failed peace talks in Iran, or over Iran in Pakistan. Nothing happens there. J.D. Vance comes home. Now we got the blockade in full effect. Okay, we shall see, as Connie said, how he gets out of this box he's in now. But nobody else coming to our aid. It's just us versus Iran. I see this as a taunt. We shall see what happens in the days ahead. I want to make one final point, Connie, on this, and get your take on it. We'll push forward to Kamala Harris and the Pope and some other stuff here, and Democrats, at least some, who want to impeach Donald Trump. Never mind what the leadership is saying about that. So here's the thing. We are still right now, Connie, inside this 2-week ceasefire. We are positioned to do a lot of damage. We're blockading the Strait. We've got tens of thousands of troops in position right now in the Middle East. But at the moment, we're still inside this 2-week so-called ceasefire. What happens a few days from now when we hit that point where the 2-week ceasefire is no more, Connie?
Well, you see, Iran thinks it's the victor here because all they had to do was remain standing after we dumped, 1 million bombs on them. So we gave them our biggest punch. They still have a third of their missiles. They can make drones faster than you can make pancakes. And because it's asymmetrical warfare, that's all they have to do. They only have to be right once. We've got to be right all the time. So all of our big hardware hasn't crushed them. And they know that. And they control the Strait of Hormuz. So who won? For now. We have won militarily and lost strategically, which means we've lost. So Donald Trump cannot face saying he lost, so he'll just make it up and say we won. But the problem is you've got to get the oil flowing. You've got to put out the fires that he set, and you've got to get back to the day before this nonsense began, when he decided that Iran was Venezuela.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm seeing is the United States, the military establishment knows the limitations of what it can do. It's too bad the president doesn't.
Yep. They call it epic fury. Connie calls it epic folly. Nobody turns a phrase quite like Connie Rice. Again, it ain't epic fury, it's epic folly. We digress on that for now. When we come forward, we're going to talk about this. Here's your former vice president. I mentioned your current vice president, J.D. Vance, a moment ago. Played a clip of him, so why leave out the former vice president? Here's Kamala Harris.
So are you going to run again in 28?
Listen, I might. I'm thinking about it. I know what the job is. And I know what it requires. Look, the American people have a right to expect that anyone who wants to run for office and be a leader, that it can't be about themselves. and what they want for themselves. It's got to be about the American people.
Not about themselves, but about the American people. But you heard it out of her own mouth. I'm thinking about it. And she got up and walked off the stage and said to applause and cheers and laughs, I'll get back to you on that. That's how she exited the stage. By the way, that was Al Sharpton's voice. She was in conversation with Al Sharpton at his National Action Network annual gathering in New York City. That's where that conversation took place. When we come forward, we'll get Connie Rice's thoughts on Kamala Harris saying, I'm thinking about it. I'll get back to you on that.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. Forward.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. The country's second largest school district looks like it'll be in session this week. Sunday morning, Los Angeles Unified announced the district and the teachers union struck a tentative 2-year agreement, possibly avoiding a strike that was set to start tomorrow. LAUSD says teachers' pay scales will go up 11.65%, and the starting salary for a teacher will be $77,000 a year. An organization that supports and promotes Black-owned businesses brought its national tour to Memphis this weekend. The event, called Shop Black Fest, featured 90 vendors offering everything from food to clothing and live music. And the WNBA draft is happening tonight in New York City. The main event will air on ESPN at 7 p.m. The Dallas Mavericks hold the top overall pick. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Now that the NBA regular season is over, here's what's on the menu for the Lakers and Clippers. The Lakers are meeting up with the Houston Rockets in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. Game 1 in the best of 7 is Saturday at Crypto.com, 5:30 p.m. tip-off. The Clippers are the number 9 seed in the play-in round. That means they will have to win 2 games to make the playoffs. First game is Wednesday night against Golden State at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, 7 p.m. tip-off. If the Clippers win, they would play Friday night at Phoenix or at Portland. The WNBA draft is tonight. The 3-round event starts at 4:30 on ESPN. No first-round pick for the LA Sparks because of a trade with the Seattle Storm in 2024. 4 UCLA players are projected to go in the first round: Lauren Betts, Connie Rice, Gianna Neekins, and Gabriela Jaquez. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The BLM Center for Black Power is a hub for Black activism in the city of Los Angeles, a standalone nonprofit affiliated with Black Lives Matter LA. The venue is home to live events, meetings, and organizing drives for Black-led community-based organizations. It is also the base of operations for Black Lives Matter LA. Built on what used to be a nuisance property owned by an arms dealer, the BLM Center for Black Power is in the heart of Leimert Park and has opened its doors to everything from youth organizers to toy drives to film screenings and community town hall meetings. To make a donation or make a request, please visit blmla.org. That's blmla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Fig Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot-stomping, heart-stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
Yeah, I told you this first hour is going to be power-packed. Lots of issues to unpack. Glad Connie Rice is here to help me do it in hour one. So, again, in case you've just tuned in, we've talked about J.D. Vance and these failed peace talks in Pakistan over the weekend on the Iran issue. We've talked about Donald Trump and this blockade. We're now a couple hours into it, and at the moment, nothing to report. Something goes down between now and the time I go off the air, I will let you know. But the blockade is in full effect right now of that Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. blockade, that is. We shall see if Iran responds or what happens when ships try to pass through, but just a couple hours into that. Before the break, moments ago, I played for you the audio. Miles, tee that up again one more time for those who didn't hear this. This is Kamala Harris at Al Sharpton's National Action Network over the weekend when Al asked her the following question.
So are you going to run again in 28?
Listen, I might. I'm thinking about it. I know what the job is. And I know what it requires. Look, the American people have a right to expect that anyone who wants to run for office and be a leader, that it can't be about themselves. And what they want for themselves has got to be about the American people.
Connie, it just occurred to me as that clip played the second time that the last time you were on, we were talking about this breaking news story that Democratic leaders behind closed doors were talking about the fact that this time around we don't need a novelty act. The best person to win is a white male Christian. You recall that conversation last time you were here?
Yeah, how could you forget?
Yeah. So that thought just came back to me. Kamala does not fit any of those, maybe the Christian part, but she doesn't fit those she doesn't fit the frame of the other issues that Democratic leaders say they need to have this time around if they're going to win. It's not the time for a Pete Buttigieg. It's not the time for a woman. It's not the time, ... You need a white male Christian in this moment to win the White House in 2028. But you hear Kamala suggesting that I'm thinking about it. I might. I'll get back to you. And to that, Connie Rice says what?
They're all wrong.
They're all wrong. Okay. Tell me more, Connie.
They're all in the wrong frame. Look, that the parade at the National Action Network conference that they had.
Yep.
You had some stellar folks. You had smart, strategic, experience. They solve problems. They're really good politicians. The problem is they are traditional establishment Democrats. And I'm not sure that any traditional establishment Democrat in this time when the American people are hungering for something so different that they actually reach for a convicted, liarrhea-infected con man. Okay? So the first question is, does the party understand what the public wants? And it's not a list of policy things. It's not a history of having held an office before and knowing what the job is. The job has changed. The country has changed. The crises are that the people say they want fixed. Affordability. You and I talk about it's more than affordability. It's upward mobility, which is a much heavier lift.
That's right.
That's the agenda, and you've got to have somebody who understands how to do verbal combat in today's media landscape. Social media, being able to galvanize a huge coalition on the order of what Orban got kicked out with in Hungary. We've got to push back hugely, and you've got to have a leader who not only understands that it's not business as usual, and that the crises that we face are bigger than normal, and they're all coming together at the same time. It's not just one or two, and then can galvanize a coalition that says we're not going down this authoritarian, corrupt RICO operation of a White House. We're not following MAGA back to the 1850s. We're going forward into the 21st century the way that those astronauts told us we need to do. So I don't think anybody on that stage is grasping that they don't have the right analysis of where we are.
Since we're talking about Democrats in 2028, there is a growing chorus. I've lost count now. Last time I checked, last week was in the 80s. I think it's much higher than that now. It may have crossed 100, but there is a growing chorus of Democrats on the Hill, House members and even some Senate members, who are suggesting that one of two things needs to happen, as we discussed on this program last week. But again, the numbers are growing. So I want to get Connie's read on it since we're talking again about Democrats in 2028. A growing list of Democrats who are saying that either the Trump cabinet needs to invoke the 25th Amendment and declare that Donald Trump is unfit for office. And I've never said it quite like this, but let me just say, when I see Donald Trump, which we'll get to in a moment, depicting himself as Jesus, when I see the things he's posting every day on Truth Social, Donald Trump, I think, does need a cognitive test. I'm not playing politics with this. I'm telling you, I believe that something is snapped inside of Donald Trump. And for all the talk about Joe Biden and his mental acuity, I think that something has gone terribly wrong inside of Donald Trump's head. These posts, the time of day he posts them, his just going off. I mean, again, we could do this all day long. You're reading the same stuff I'm reading every day. I think Donald Trump needs some sort of cognitive test. Now, I'm not stuck on stupid. I ain't naive. I don't think this cabinet is going to listen to Democrats and invoke the 25th Amendment and declare him unfit for office. But I believe that by the day, by the hour, we are seeing the evidence in real time. He's becoming more and more unfit for this office every single day. The other option is to just start impeachment proceedings. That bill has already been introduced. But Democrats calling for impeachment are hitting a wall with the Democratic leadership, Connie, who doesn't see it quite that way. I'm not even sure Connie agrees with the impeachment theory. So let me just stand down and ask her what she makes of these two issues that Democrats, in a growing, in an increasing number of voices, are starting to suggest, Connie.
Look, this is why their brand is weak and ineffective. You don't talk about tactics you can't make happen. Don't be cashing checks with your mouth if you can't.
that your body can't cash. I got you.
Exactly. So stop talking about impeachment. You did that twice and couldn't make it stick. Talk about the strategies for getting power, not about doing arm wrestling with someone who not only isn't cognitively fit, but more importantly, he's morally completely unfit. As a morbid narcissist, you can't give a morbid narcissist leadership. And we now see why. It's dangerous. 200 psychiatrists tried to tell us 10 years ago, you don't give someone who's worse than Jeffrey Dahmer the nuclear bomb, which is what a morbid narcissist is. So we decided not, because nobody reads anymore, and they're certainly not going to listen to 200 psychiatrists. We ignored the experts, and here we are. So yes, impeachment and everything it gives you, but if you can't carry it through and make it stick, he destroyed that clause along with the emoluments clause, along with due process, along with ICE. He destroyed the Department of Justice. He has completely corrupted. He's trying to corrupt the military, but he has completely corrupted the DOJ. So all of the institutions that used to be normal, that's why the Democrats talking like we still have a normal Washington and we still have a normal frame for the country, are not acknowledging how far we've been pushed down the wormhole of destruction of democracy. Now, come back with an agenda that tells people the future you're going to build, that tells people how you're going to put the rungs in the upward mobility ladder back in the ladder that were taken out over 50 years of policies from bankruptcy law, tax law, offshore, banking, all of the stuff that we've done to license pirate capitalism.
Yeah.
That is sinking middle-class America and devastating the poor with mass incarceration. So get that agenda together and then find somebody who can carry it. Stop talking about impeachment because you're not going to be able to do it.
Let me move from that when we come forward to the Pope. I'm looking for Doug Wilson. I'm looking for Gary Bauer. I'm looking for Franklin Graham. I'm looking for Mike Huckabee. I'm looking for Jack Graham. I'm looking for Mark Burns. And, yeah, I'm looking for Paula White. Yeah, you, Paula White. All these Christian right preachers are silent on what Donald Trump did on Easter Sunday, silent on his attacks on the Pope, silent on him now posting a image, a meme of himself as Jesus Christ. I told y'all to Google it for yourself so you can see it. Trump posted it, of him as Jesus, and they ain't had nothing to say about it. Laura Loomer, who's a defender of the president, said, and I quote, "People crashing out over a meme need to chill out." He's depicting himself as Jesus, but we just need, Laura Loomer says, to chill out. I tell who ain't having it, it's the Pope. And he went in on Donald Trump on his plane. I'll play that for you when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Every morning, we rise and shine, make breakfast, and brush away the night's rest. These routines help us start the day off right. Nature-Made vitamins are a simple step in that daily care regimen. Multivitamins with daily essentials, clinically studied probiotics for gut health support, magnesium to help relax the body. Nature-Made is made to care for you every day. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go! Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
He's a paradigm pioneer and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Here's Pope Leo responding to Donald Trump. Take a listen.
I basically said that the message of the church, my message, the message of the gospel, blessed are the peacemakers. I do not look at my role as being political or politician. I don't want to get into a debate with him. I don't think that the message of the gospel is meant to be abused in the way that some people are doing. And I will continue to speak out loud against war, looking to promote peace, promoting dialogue and multilateral relationships among the states, to look for just solutions to problems. Too many people are suffering in the world today. Too many innocent people are being killed. And I think someone has to stand up and say, there's a better way to do this. I have no fear, neither the Trump administration nor speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel. And that's what I believe I am called to do, what the church is called to do. We're not politicians. We're not looking to make foreign policy, as he calls it, with the same perspective that he might understand it. But I do believe that the message of the gospel, blessed are the peacemakers, is a message that the world needs to hear today.
Blessed are the peacemakers. I have no fear of the Trump administration. Connie, I've been at this a long time. You've been at it for a while as well. And we've had a lot of good conversations about a lot of things over the years. We ain't never had no conversation in the context, or to use your words, in the frame of the Pope being pulled into a situation like this. I've never seen in all my years this back and forth between the President of the United States, any president, and the head of the Vatican.
The American Pope against the American President. Nope, I haven't seen that before either. This takes us back to a conversation we had when you and I were kind of breaking down the MAGA movement. And remember that study that said about 25% of the MAGA movement, this is MAGA, not the rest of the Republican GOP coalition, but the MAGA, the real hardcore red hat wearing, go to his rallies folks. About 25% of them are at the cult level of attachment to him, which means that's why Billy Graham Jr. ain't going to say anything, because if he says something, he'll lose his pulpit. To your earlier point.
Yeah.
They will lose they have many pastors in the South and have lost their congregations because they actually spoke out for the values in the Sermon on the Mount. Well, Frank Luntz, the pollster, sat down with his focus groups of MAGA members, and 60% of them called the Sermon on the Mount woke. So their allegiance is no longer to Christ or Christianity or to the gospel. They're not. They've created a religious cult around Trump. That's why they joke about him as the Orange Jesus. This is what we're seeing in this episode of him sending out this meme of him as Christ to counter Pope Leo's criticism. And yes, it's blasphemous, but it's like the 15th thing he's done that's blasphemous in the terms of Christianity, and I think we should expect more of it. I do hear people like Megyn Kelly, some of the influencers, some of the big influencers on the right. You covered this already. Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, some of the Broly oligarch podcasters. What's his name? Rogan. I don't know them.
Joe Rogan. Yep.
But they have a lot of influence, and they probably brought a lot of the young male voters who never voted to the Trump coalition, and they've been criticizing him not just on this. They really came out against him on this fight. Mm-hmm. His genocidal, I'm going to wipe out Iranian civilization and entire culture. They really came out like dragons on that. And I'm waiting for them to come out on this too.
No, I think those persons will, no question about it. The issue that I'm raising, as you said very clearly, is that these so-called spiritual leaders, the Paula Whites of the world, the Franklin Grahams of the world, et cetera, when Donald Trump, who you supported with every passing day, goes in harder and harder on your faith tradition, and then posts a meme of himself as Jesus Christ, and you ain't got nothing to say about that. See, that's a real problem, and that's putting it charitably and generously. I digress for now. Our remaining moments with Connie Rice when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We're at Doolin's on Crenshaw. It's a special place where the neighborhood comes together. Got the fried chicken, the catfish, the candied yams, the mac and cheese. It's all delicious. I'm Isaac Bryan. I represent the Crenshaw District in the California State Legislature, and I'm supporting Tom Steyer for governor of California. California is under attack, and we need a fighter who's going to come in on day one and stand up for California values and push back. That person is Tom Steyer. Tom and I have been fighting together for the better part of a decade. Tom is the only candidate supported by smart justice because Tom has stood on the front lines of racial justice, economic justice, and true solidarity. Tom is the real deal. He's the only candidate in the race with a comprehensive plan to make the billionaires and the corporations pay their fair share so we can fund things like universal health care and education. He means what he says, and he does what we need. This is a moment when we've got to fight fire with fire, and I believe that fire is Tom Steyer.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: skills first hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Got 2 minutes left here, just enough time to close on this hot mess of Eric Swalwell. We all saw the story of the weekend. He, after a great deal of pressure from Democrats, suspended his campaign for governor here in California. It's a huge national story beyond California because here again, you have Democratic leaders going in on one of their own and saying you need to stand down. Meanwhile, the president has been indicted 34 times on the same kind of accusation, and he remains in office. Connie, what say you about that in 90 seconds?
Okay, one party, they have an adjudicated sex abuser, and they put him in the White House and celebrate the fact that he likes to brag about sexually assaulting women.
Mm-hmm.
The Democrats, on the other hand, went too far in ejecting Al Franken. He should not have lost his office.
Agreed.
Remember, we said no about Schwarzenegger's picadillos.
That's right.
But Trump, yes. Gates, yes, because it involved underage women. So I think what this says is you need to react to the serious charges. If women bring up sexual assault and abuse, if you're talking about clowning around like Al Franken, no, I think we need a more nuanced approach to regulating sexual abusive behavior and the political consequences for people who cross those lines. And I think we're beginning to see that. Swalwell should step down. If you've got credible allegations of rape, you need to step down. It turns the race upside down for the Dems, but someone's going to emerge, Steyer or maybe Katie Porter. So we'll keep our eye on that. But should Swalwell step down? Yes. The allegations are serious enough.
There you have it, Connie Rice. I get to her as often as I can in our rundown to start this show. And as I said before, I always know that if Connie's leading me off, I'm going to be all right. Connie Rice, thanks for your insights. Love you. Talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
That's Cornel West, as always, kicks off the second hour here on a Monday. You are listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. The country's second largest school district looks like it'll be in session this week. Sunday morning, Los Angeles Unified announced the district and the teachers union struck a tentative 2-year agreement, possibly avoiding a strike that was set to start tomorrow. LAUSD says teachers' pay scales will go up 11.65%, and the starting salary for a teacher will be $77,000 a year. An organization that supports and promotes Black-owned businesses brought its national tour to Memphis this weekend. The event, called Shop Black Fest, featured 90 vendors offering everything from food to clothing and live music. And the WNBA draft is happening tonight in New York City. The main event will air on ESPN at 7 p.m. The Dallas Mavericks hold the top overall pick. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Now that the NBA regular season is over, here's what's on the menu for the Lakers and Clippers. The Lakers are meeting up with the Houston Rockets in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. Game 1 in the best-of-7 is Saturday at Crypto.com, 5:30 p.m. tip-off. The Clippers are the number 9 seed in the play-in round. That means they will have to win 2 games to make the playoffs. First game is Wednesday night against Golden State at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, 7 p.m. tip-off. If the Clippers win, they would play Friday night at Phoenix or at Portland. The WNBA draft is tonight. The 3-round event starts at 4:30 on ESPN. No first-round pick for the LA Sparks because of a trade with the Seattle Storm in 2024. 4 UCLA players are projected to go in the first round: Lauren Betts, Kiki Rice, Gianna Neekins, and Gabriela Jaquez. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
When the story gets twisted, who's going to tell the truth? When they cut the microphones, who's still talking? When history gets rewritten, who remembers what really happened? We do. KBLA Talk 1580. Black media isn't just important right now, it's essential. Because when mainstream outlets move on, we stay. When the headlines ignore our communities, we don't. When decisions are being made that affect Black lives in our schools, our neighborhoods, our economy, KBLA is in the room. This is more than radio. This is a lifeline, a record, a rallying cry. Black stories, Black voices, Black power.
The heat is on.
On the air and in the culture. KBLA Talk 1580. Stay connected. Stay informed. Stay loud.
Stand up. I love my mama, baby, yeah, yeah, yeah. Little darling, I said I love her, you sort of right now. Never, never gonna let you go.
I'm Tavis Smiley. That is Billy Stewart. I Do Love You. Dr. Cornel West, as you know, chooses his own walk-on music every Monday and Thursday. I ain't got nothing to do with it. That's his decision, what his walk-on music is. But he always chooses something that makes sense for whatever we're going to talk about, which I never know. He doesn't either half the time. We just let it do what it do. That said, he always pulls something out of that library that either we haven't heard or ain't heard in a long time, which is the problem with radio these days. They play the same 20 songs all day long, so it's always nice every Monday and Thursday for Dr. West to pull something out of his bag that we haven't considered, haven't tuned our ears to in quite some time, if ever. Dr. West, how are you, sir?
My dear brother, you know that's my only blood brother, Clifton West's favorite song of all time. I don't know anybody more wise, more loving than Cliff. That's Maurice White from the Earth, Wind, and Fire on the drums. And, of course, the song itself is based on the last 30 seconds of I've Been Trying by Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions. Keep on trying. Ooh, 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 ooh. Nobody like Billy Stewart. He died at 32. He lives forever. Still sounding so good. Discovered by Bo Diddley. Met Marvin Gaye when he was singing with the Rainbows and the Marquis in Washington, D.C. Oh, what a history of a great black people.
Oh, it is.
The music is always the truth and the beauty, getting there before so many of those who use language rather than notes. But for us, it's important, Brother Tavis, because, you see, Trump is a slave to hatred. He's a slave to greed. He's a slave to spectacle. And we have to begin with what we love. We are empowered in the face of his hatred by love. We are empowered in the face of his greed by compassion and service and willingness to sacrifice. So we can't be sucked into Trump's hatred and sucked into his greed and sucked into his spectacle, as it were. And that's very important in terms of starting point. The great Alfred North Whitehead said, Brother Tavis, that the progress of religion is defined by the denunciation of gods and idols. And the keynote of idolatry is contentment with the prevalent gods and idols. So we have to have a noble discontent rooted in a love. That's Fannie Lou Hamer. That's Martin King. That's Curtis Mayfield. That's John Coltrane. That's Ella Baker. Because we dealing with levels of idolatry, levels of hatred, levels of greed that we don't have a language for. And we've said before, you know, Trump is a gangster on steroids. I was talking about that yesterday at the Howard University the chapel that we had. Was a beautiful gathering there. Even Zaytoon was there. It blew my mind. We had quite an unbelievable time. And I was talking about the same thing. But that Billy Stewart out of D.C., man, ooh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. There's a lot that Doc said. I'm going to let him unpack as he moves through this half hour. First of all, for those who don't know who Zaytoon is his daughter. He drops these names sometimes, and I got to interpret for him. So he was saying how surprised he was that his daughter showed up yesterday and surprised him. Dr. West, for I forgot how many years, I've been there a number of the years, but it must be 30-plus years and counting. But every year, Dr. West speaks on the campus of Howard University. Go Bison. I hear you. I hear all you Bison out there. But every year he preaches. He speaks on a Sunday at Howard, and it's always standing room only. He's done it for more years than I can count. Now, do you recall? Do you know how many years it's been, Doc? Consecutive years?
It's been about 42. I go back to
I said 30.
Before.
Yeah.
Dean
Yeah,
Dean Richardson.
I'm just a decade off, but 42 years, Dr. West.
God's been good. We still here, brother.
Yeah.
God is good. We still here.
No, he is good. 42 years, Doc speaks at Howard at least once a year on a Sunday, and it's always standing room only. Everybody knows when he's going to be there, and it's always a time. So I'm glad to hear. I didn't know that. I'm glad to hear that Zaytoon showed up and surprised him yesterday. She's finishing up her PhD at Princeton. The apple don't fall far from the tree. So his daughter, again, is wrapping up her PhD studies at Princeton, and we love and respect and just appreciate the fact that Zaytoon showed up to support her father yesterday. When we come forward, though, there are two or three things you've already said that I want to get to. I want to make the most of this half hour. As you can imagine, given who Dr. West is, given that he teaches at Union Seminary, I couldn't wait to get to him to talk about Donald Trump and the Pope and Donald Trump depicting himself as Jesus in these memes. I want to hear his perspective on that. But he said something a moment ago that jumped out at me, and I suspect it did you as well, when he said that Donald Trump is a slave to hatred. A slave to hatred. Now, you think about black people writ large, we were brought here against our will and then enslaved. It's always important when you talk about our history to say that black folk were enslaved. Not just slaves, we were enslaved. It didn't just happen magically. Somebody, as Maya Angelou said, we were stolen, bought. This is in her poem on the Pulse of Morning, which she delivered at Bill Clinton's inauguration on the Pulse of Morning. Maya says in that poem, we were stolen, bought, and sold into slavery, arriving on a nightmare, praying for a dream. Only Maya Angelou could write that. We were stolen, bought, and sold into slavery, arriving on a nightmare, praying for a dream. So we were brought here and we were enslaved. We had nothing to do with that. Doc says that Donald Trump is a slave to hatred. My question is pretty obvious. How does one become a slave to hatred? Do you volunteer? Clearly you aren't enslaved. So did you volunteer for this assignment? How does one become a slave to hatred? We'll start there and jump. You're listening to Dr. Cornel West on Tavis Smiley.
BET and PBS, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and NPR, the cover of Jet and the cover of Time. #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, 20 honorary doctorate degrees, a dozen NAACP Image Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. From talk shows to talk radio, nobody's ever done it better. You like that? This is Tavis Smiley.
Can we just talk?
Tavis Smiley.
You've heard me say it before, how we talk to one another matters. Earlier this year, we launched our first cohort, and I'm grateful to those who leaned in early and helped to shape the work. Now I'm inviting you to join me for a new live seminar, The Practice of Dialogue, Becoming a More Effective Communicator. This is a small group experience designed to help you strengthen how you communicate in your work, your relationships, and your everyday life. Space is limited to keep the experience personal and interactive. So if you're ready to take your communication to the next level, now is the time to focus on the skills that make conversations meaningful. The new 4-week cohort begins Monday, May 4th, and there's a nice discount for early bird registrants. Visit TavisTalks.com to learn more and reserve your place today. That's TavisTalks.com, because better conversations don't just happen, we practice them.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer. Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
You know 5 years goes fast when you're doing something you love. 5 years of being right there with you, in your car, in your kitchen, at work, in your earbuds. And we don't take that for granted, not for a second. When it came time to celebrate our 5th anniversary, we knew it had to mean something. And we're celebrating on the most fitting day there is, Juneteenth. We're still putting the finishing touches on something really special. And before we tell the world, we want to tell you first. Once we announce this event publicly, we expect that seats are going to go fast, really fast. So, go to our website right now at KBLA1580.com and sign up to make sure you're the very first to hear what we've got planned. Before we go public with all the details, you've been riding with us. It's only right you're first to know. KBLA1580.com. We'll see you on Juneteenth for our 5th anniversary banger. Banger, banger, banger. Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
It does indeed. Dr. Cornel West is here every Monday and Thursday. We are all the better for it. I'm always thrilled to be in conversation with my dear friend and brother, Cornel West, and today especially given all the blasphemy and the idolatry that we see coming out of Donald Trump's mouth, out of his post, out of the White House. It's getting to be a bit much. And I'm just bothered by the fact that, to use Doc's words, denunciation. We're not getting much of that from the so-called Christian right. And I keep raising this question. I'll keep raising it. What does he have to do? How far does he have to go? Now putting out memes depicting himself as Jesus. How far does he have to go for these folk on the right to speak up and to say something? That said, before I get to the clip of Donald Trump that I'm going to play for you, where Trump is going in on the Pope, and then I'm going to play the Pope responding to Donald Trump, in case you haven't heard that clip. Before I do that, though, Doc started this hour saying that Donald Trump is a slave to hatred. I made the point that as black folk, we know what it means to be enslaved. But how, Doc, does one become a slave to hatred? Do you volunteer for this? I mean, how does one become a slave to hatred?
Well, you make certain choices, brother. You decide. You have a fundamental commitment to hatred. You have a fundamental commitment to not treating people right. You have a fundamental commitment to rationalizing structures of oppression and modes of domination. So that a Harriet Tubman is much freer. Why? Because she chooses, based on courage, a deep love and justice, and a willingness to serve and sacrifice, and can go down over and over again to attempt to emancipate enslaved Africans in a barbaric system of plantation auctions and slave ships for 244 years in the history of this nation. So it's a choice, though, brother. It's a fundamental choice. It's why Mumia Abu-Jamal, still political prisoner in the United States, is a freer human being than large numbers, if not most, of folk in the country, because he chooses to be free. He chooses a commitment to justice, a commitment to truth, and therefore, even in a cell, even on death row, he can be freer. Well, that's really, that's what the gospel is about. Paul says what? You have to choose between being, on the one hand, a fool for Christ versus an enslaved to hatred. And that a fool for Christ is really just fool for love. You remember Curtis Mayfield's song, I'm a fool for you. Mm-hmm. I started with a heart of stone, and I met you, and I became a fool because my heart of stone caught on fire. And it's sad that Trump himself, he's got a heart of stone, though, brother, and he needs some fire. He needs to catch on some love and justice, but that memo has not gotten to him. Yeah. And he's getting much older, so it looks like it's not going to penetrate. But I don't know his private life, so I don't want to go into analysis of his whole life. It's just what we see as a gangster on steroids. Ain't no doubt about that.
Yep. So to your point about gangster on steroids, I've been thinking in the last 24 hours, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Your brain works faster than mine, and you got a deep read of history. I've been trying to think in the last 24 hours of the last or any comparable American leader, and I'm putting that in air quotes, radio, you can't see me right now, but trying to think of any comparable American leader who has gone in as hard as Donald Trump has just over the last 2 weeks on the Christian faith. Now, the irony here is that the Christian right supported Donald Trump, and they have been eerily silent. These so-called, preachers and pastors have been eerily silent on this. But I'm trying to think of the last time anybody with any stature in this country as a so-called leader has gone in this hard on the Christian faith. And I raise that because I've seen a bunch of other examples in my career when the right gets its back up over what it deems as a dismissal, as a demonization of its faith. They've gone after Hollywood repeatedly for depictions, et cetera, et cetera. Don't get me started on all the things I could run down where I've seen the right get its back up. Somebody says or does something, it gets their ire, and they go in on you. That is precisely how the moral majority began. That's what Jerry Falwell was all about. That's what Pat Robertson was all about. They got sick of the right or their faith being demeaned, being demonized, being trampled upon, and that's when they got politically engaged and got politically involved. They were tired of being put upon, as it were, when it comes to their faith. So they know how to respond when they feel attacked. They're just not doing it in this instance, but I can't think of a comparable example of anybody in American public life in recent memory that has so disrespected their faith tradition, Doc, and yet this guy is doing it. They supported him, and he's getting away with it. Am I missing something here?
No, you're absolutely right, though, man. There's no doubt about that. But remember now that he's part of a larger history, though, brother.
Right.
That Bull O'Connor was a Sunday school teacher who was a slave to hatred, claiming to be a Christian. The Ku Klux Klan have crosses because they claim to be Christian, but they're slaves to hatred. So there's a long history. And let's be honest about it. The majority of Americans and majority of Christians supported the enslavement of our descendants for 244 years. The majority of white Christians and white fellow citizens supported Jim Crow, neo-slavery, and didn't have a movement against lynching of any size. You see what I mean?
That's right.
So that the country itself has been enslaved to the idol of white supremacy, enslaved to hatred. Thank God for the Dorsey Days and Rabbi Heschels and Thomas Hayden's and others who were on the white vanilla side and struggled against white supremacy, the Ann Bradens, but they were a small slice. So Trump, again, he's a sign and symptom of a sick white supremacist predatory capitalist society that is so willing to sell its soul for hatred and greed and give up on any democratic possibilities or on a spiritual level to give up on the power of love and justice. But some of us are going down with love. Some of us are going down with justice. We with Emmett Till's mama, and we with Martin King, and we with Malcolm and the others. We're going to be loving our way through all of this grimness and darkness, my brother.
Indeed we are. But here is that slave to hatred who Dr. West just referenced, Donald Trump, yesterday talking about Pope Leo.
We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man that doesn't believe in stopping crime. He's a man that doesn't think that we should be toying with a country that wants a nuclear weapon so they can blow up the world. I'm not a fan of Pope Leo.
I am not a fan of Pope Leo. That's President Trump on his plane yesterday, Air Force One. I love this because both of them were traveling. So that was Donald Trump talking about Pope Leo on his plane, or basically it's our plane. It's the people's plane, Air Force One. Here's Pope Leo responding on his plane yesterday.
I basically said that the message of the church, my message, the message of the gospel, blessed are the peacemakers. I do not look at my role as being political or politician. I don't want to get into a debate with him. I don't think that the message of the gospel is meant to be abused in the way that some people are doing. And I will continue to speak out loud against war, looking to promote peace, promoting dialogue and multilateral relationships among the states to look for just solutions to problems. Too many people are suffering in the world today. Too many innocent people are being killed. And I think someone has to stand up and say, there's a better way to do this. I have no fear of neither the Trump administration nor speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel. And that's what I believe I am called to do, what the church is called to do. We're not politicians. We're not looking to make foreign policy, as he calls it, with the same perspective that he might understand it. But I do believe that the message of the gospel, lesson of the peacemakers, is a message that the world needs to hear today.
Quick correction, that was Donald Trump yesterday. As I said, that was Pope Leo today. So Trump yesterday, Air Force One, Pope Leo today on the papal plane. But as I said earlier, Doc, these so-called religious right spiritual leaders in this country have been eerily silent about what Trump has said and done. The Pope not. But again, I have never in my career seen anything quite like this. We have, as was said earlier, the American president and the American Pope sort of going at it. What's your read of all of this?
I mean, you got Trump administration has already facilitated genocide in Gaza, has called for the genocide of precious Iranians, a wholesale Persian civilization. So, that's beyond gangster. But you got to keep in mind, my dear brother, that even though the Pope is right in this regard, the Pope is not Jesus either.
That's right.
So that you have to be able to make judgment in terms of gradations and degrees in this regard. I mean, the Catholic Church has its own history of complicity, too. The Catholics, other Protestants, Jews, Turks, right across the board. Gay brothers, lesbians, we go right across the board because we're dealing with human beings. Now, the Pope from Chicago probably got some black blood in him, so might be listening to a little Marvin Gaye on the side, maybe a little Curtis on the side. That'd be wonderful, too. But as high placed as he is, and he's right in this regard, he ain't Jesus either. And we have to all, I think, just have a sense of our acknowledgement of our finitude, of our fallenness as human beings. But we can choose to be forces of good. We don't have to choose to be enslaved to hatred. That's why when Billy Stewart sings, I do love you, he ain't just talking about his woman or his friend. He's talking about orienting himself and his soul of being a love warrior in the world, tied to fighting for freedom, tied to sharing joy with a sense of humility and with tremendous style, with a smile. That's Billy Stewart, Curtis Mayfield. That's what we're talking about this moment.
Yep. I wonder whether or not you spend any time, I do not know, so I'm asking, whether or not you spend any time considering how much worse this is going to get. And I raise that because, on this particular issue of Trump demeaning, frankly, the Christian faith, this is the one thing. I mean, there's so many. Let me just back up. There's so many things. I knew who Donald Trump was. I got in trouble for calling him an unrepentant racial arsonist, as you'll recall. I was on ABC with George Stephanopoulos this week, and everybody got mad at me because I called him an irascible, unrepentant racial arsonist. This is years ago, and people went in on me for going in on Donald Trump. Donald Trump went in on me so much so after that comment, it became a story in the New York Times, no less. So I know something of trying to warn us who Donald Trump was all those years ago. And yet, here we find ourselves in a moment where it's so much worse than even I thought. I did not see some of this happening. You could not have told me a year and a half ago on the campaign trail that Donald Trump will be saying and doing these kinds of things vis-a-vis the Christian faith. I wouldn't have believed that, given how stalwart they were supporting him. And, every politician knows what side his or her bread is buttered on. I didn't see this coming, which is a long way of asking whether or not you spend any time thinking about how much worse this presidency is going to get.
Well, there's only two things that a gangster like Trump is going to be concerned about, though, brother. He would not talk about the Pope if the stock market collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a slave to greed and money.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to talk about the Pope like that if his polls go down to 0 or 1 or 2. But you got folk enabling him on the ground. That's that slice of MAGA that view him as a icon or a demagogue. And you got big tech, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, who are egging him on in his greed-driven economic policies for the rich that's crushing the working class, crushing poor people, let alone crushing everyday people around the world. So that even a gangster, as a human being, and he is a human being now, he's not outside of the human family. We've got a whole history of Genghis Khan.
Oh, yeah.
And Alexander the Great killing and dominating and trashing folk. But he chooses to be a gangster, and in choosing that, he still has his limits, his constraints. He's not in full control.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yep.
He's got folk enabling him and allowing him to do this. This is a national American issue as well as a Trump issue. The country's been gangsterized and making choices to be slaves to hatred and greed, not just him.
Yeah. Donald Trump can post memes all day long depicting himself as Jesus, but he ain't God. Don't get it twisted. He can post those memes all day long, but he is not in full control. He is not God, and we will leave it there for now. Dr. Cornel West is here every Monday and Thursday, top of the second hour. Doc, love you, man. Talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Love you, brother. Right on, right on.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. The NTSB is investigating after a small plane was forced to make an emergency landing on a busy Arizona street. Phoenix Fire Department captain said no vehicles or buildings were hit. This passenger said they're lucky to be alive.
He saved our lives, basically, and we're a little bit banged up, but we're okay.
It's not clear what caused the malfunction. 100 Black Men of Central Ohio is establishing a fund in the name of Ohio Air National Guard Master Sergeant Tyler Simmons. The Columbus, Ohio native was one of 6 service members killed in an air refueling crash in the Middle East last month. And drivers in downtown Nashville are raising questions after videos showing Waymo's self-driving vehicles stopping or slowing traffic days after the official launch. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Now that the NBA regular season is over, here's what's on the menu for the Lakers and Clippers. The Lakers are meeting up with the Houston Rockets in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. Game 1 in the best of 7 is Saturday at Crypto.com, 5:30 p.m. tip-off. The Clippers are the number 9 seed in the play-in round. That means they will have to win 2 games to make the playoffs. First game is Wednesday night against Golden State at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, 7 p.m. tip-off. If the Clippers win, they would play Friday night at Phoenix or at Portland. The WNBA draft is tonight. The 3-round event starts at 4:30 on ESPN. No first-round pick for the LA Sparks because of a trade with the Seattle Storm in 2024. 4 UCLA players are projected to go in the first round. Lauren Betts, Kiki Rice, Gianna Neekins, and Gabriela Jaquez. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
Make this summer one to remember at MGM Grand Las Vegas. Lounge by the pool, catch world-class entertainment, indulge in unforgettable dining, and experience the energy only MGM can deliver. Plan your Vegas escape today at MGMRewards.com.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Fig Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot-stomping, heart-stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The midterm elections are upon us. It is voting season once again. Common Cause's motto is fighting for the democracy we deserve. In service of that goal, Common Cause puts its state and national policy expertise, massive network of grassroots supporters, and nonpartisan approach into action to strengthen our democracy against the challenges we face today. They work at every level of government on priorities that impact each of our lives, like defending the right to vote, limiting big money's influence on our elections, holding public officials accountable, and more. Common Cause is a nonpartisan grassroots organization dedicated to upholding the core values of American democracy. They seek to empower all people to make their voices heard in the political process. This election may be the most important one ever. If you'd like to make a donation or volunteer in service to the Constitution, please visit commoncause.org. That's commoncause.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
We thank Dr. Cornel West for checking in again today, as he does every Monday and Thursday, top of the second hour. And now we push to a conversation with Shawn Harris. Shawn Harris is a Democrat who lost the race for Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat in Georgia, but he pulled off the biggest shift yet for Democrats in these special House races and sent a strong message to Republicans in advance of this year's midterm elections. Shawn Harris, good to have you back on this program. How are you, sir?
Great, brother. It's good to be back on your show.
It's good to hear your voice. And let me start by thanking you for coming on the program during the campaign. We had a chance to talk to Shawn Harris. If you were listening that day, I hope you were. I hope you listen every day. But Shawn was on this program in advance of this election, this special election, and I'm grateful to him for putting us on his list then, and I'm grateful for him circling back to us for a post-election conversation. As I mentioned, and a lot has been written about this, about the shift in this particular race from the last time around. Let me just start with you sharing some numbers of what I'm referring to it as a shift. Indeed it was. But unpack what that shift looks like, Shawn Harris.
Yeah, we were blessed to this is a marathon. And what I mean by a marathon, I think this is my third time running in this, where I ran against Marjorie Taylor Greene, then I ran in the jungle primary, then I just ran in the runoff. And then here in a few more weeks, we'll be into another primary, but I'm the only candidate. And then after that, in November, we'll run again against whoever's the Republican going to be. So I say all that to make sure your viewers understand that because Marjorie Taylor Greene quit on us, we have a lot of opportunity to talk to the people here in Northwest Georgia. And every time we have these conversations, more and more people, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, are coming over to our team. And like you said, we didn't win the election. It's no second place trophy, but you can learn from these things. And one of the things that we take away from it is, from the time President Trump ran in this last election, when we had the presidential election, he won CD 14 by 37 points. We closed that gap by 25 points. That is significant. And come next time, we'll be able to win it. But I will say this. because we're talking to the greater community. If I could have got out all of the black community, it was enough votes left on the table that we could have won this election this past Tuesday.
We'll come back to that in just a second here, the black turnout in this particular race. Before I get to that, though, let me stay with this shift because this is a big deal. Donald Trump won this district, as you mentioned, by 37 points. You closed that gap by 25 points. Tell me more about how you think you did that, and how you did it, and what that says to Republicans about where they stand in these ruby red districts.
Yeah, the way we did it is one, and I said this back to the Democratic Party the other night, is this: we can win anywhere in the United States, anywhere. You just have to have the right candidate, and you make sure the candidate is staying focused on whatever the local issues are. And because many times here in the rural area where I'm at, whatever's happening nationally may affect us, but most times, like in politics, everything is local.
That's right.
So my conversation with everybody in our district is always kitchen table issues, because our district is 100% agriculture. So with the tariffs, with the war that's going on in Iran, the cost is out there, fuel costs, gas costs, diesel costs, fertilizer costs. These are all tangible things that no matter if you're a Democrat, Independent, or Republican, you can see it, you can feel it, you can taste it. And that means that you're saying, hey, I'm going to give Shawn Harris a chance. And I believe that is what got us over the hump. And that's what's going to get us a win come November, because we are now what I call in a permanent high-paying situation, because the Trump administration has completely blew this war that we're in. Politically, we're going to lose it. Militarily, we will win it. But at the end of the day, it will help myself and all Democrats around the country, because the people are hurting when it comes to economics.
You laid on this, but I want to just double click this because I think there's something here. So to your point about talking to Democrats the other day, the establishment Democrats, the party apparatus, what is the message to Democrats about messaging come November? What is the message for Democrats about messaging come November?
Yeah, at least I can only speak for what I'm doing here in Northwest Georgia. And Northwest Georgia is quite different from anywhere else in our state, because I'm proud of the fact that I live here in Northwest Georgia. But the reality of it is this: I'm in the ruby red district. I'm the reddest district in the state. Mm-hmm. And my message is, and what I've said to the Democratic Party is this: we need to make sure that we talking directly to everyday hard-working people, mm-hmm. regardless if they're Democrats, Independents, or Republicans. We need to make sure our message is clear, and make sure our message is something that everybody can understand. So no big flowery words and all those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And we need to make sure that if we are going to say that we're going to do something about health care, if we're going to do something about bringing down costs, if we're going to do something about bringing in additional whatever it is, we need to have a plan for that. And what I mean by that is something that I'm actually developing today is internal to my own little district. My own little district is this: what is my 2026 plan, or what's my 2027 plan? Almost the same thing that Trump actually did, flipping that on his head and actually putting together something that we can give to the people and say, look, if you vote for us, mm-hmm. these are the things that we will focus on and bring back to you. Because I constantly get the question that, Shawn, if you would have won, would you go to D.C. and the first thing you would do is impeach Trump? And I said to the people is this: that's not going to be my first thing, because I spent all my time doing that, and guess what? I come back and we got nothing done for the people, because we done that 2 times. He still came to work. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure that when we go to D.C., we stay laser focused on what's going to help people in the cities, what's going to help people in the suburbs, and specifically what's going to help people in the rural community, because we have walked away from the rural community.
I hear you loud and clear, and yet a 25-point swing in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, no doubt, the most ruby red district, as you heard Shawn Harris say, in the state of Georgia, Northwest Georgia. That 25-point swing, though, says something about the voters' dissatisfaction with Donald Trump, does it not?
Mm-hmm. That is 100%, because the gentleman that I ran against, Clay, for all practical purposes, you can go look at that for yourself. He was on Fox News like 2 days ago. He clearly said that Shawn Harris was running against Donald Trump. He don't even give himself any credit. So the reality of it is, and that's fine. When I first saw it, I had to ask myself, I'm not running for president of the United States.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is, the person that I ran against has sold his soul so much that he talks about himself in the third person. So with that being said, these next 7 months, things are not going to turn out well. I pray that things get better, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Then that's why, because he sold himself to Donald Trump, and because all by purpose, his words, not my words, I'm running against Donald Trump, I think the people in this district are going to say, you know what, enough is enough.
Yeah.
We're losing our farms. We can't have a good job. We can't take care of our kids. Our hospitals are starting to shut down. I'm going to give this Democrat, this moderate Democrat, an opportunity to go to D.C. and get something done. And that's why I'm very confident for November.
You didn't call it by name. Let me call it by name, but you referenced it. That is to say, Project 2025, that Donald Trump Republicans told voters, if you elect us, this is what we're going to do. Now, of course, during the campaign, we all remember that Donald Trump distanced himself from Project 2025. But when he got there, he ran their playbook. So when we come forward, I want to ask you whether or not you see at the moment Democrats laying out any similar plan. It ain't got to be Project 2025. I hope it's not, obviously. But to your point about laying out an agenda, about delivering a plan to the people of what you're going to do the minute you get elected, do you see Democrats moving in that direction, number one, between now and November? And then, of course, we're going to circle back to that point you made about black voters and how you might have had a chance to actually win this thing if you turned out more African-American voters. My mind goes to the late, great Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr., who said to me more than once that we in the black community, lose too many elections, Tavis, by the margin of our absence at the polls. We lose too many elections, beautifully and eloquently put by Reverend Jackson. We lose too often by the simple margin of our absence at the polls. We'll talk about that with Shawn Harris when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go! Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Shawn Harris, Democratic candidate who was running in that 14th Congressional District special election, didn't pull it off, but he shifted the district 25 points to the left in a ruby red district. This is the seat once held by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Big deal, and everybody's talking about what Shawn Harris did, in fact, pull off again, shifting this district 25 points to the left. My time is getting tight. Let me ask you right quick, Shawn. You said a moment ago that that Democrats need to lay out an agenda, lay out a plan for what they're going to do if they take back the House and the Senate in November. Do you see any evidence of that at this point?
At this point, I at my level that I'm at, and again, I'm here in Northwest Georgia.
Sure.
I don't see any of those things. That is why I'm putting it out there, is so that no matter where we're at in the United States, we get it well in advance, so that we can internalize it and then put it into the words that work best for us in New York City, California, Atlanta, and then even right here in Ruby Red, Northwest Georgia, Rome, Georgia, so that we can all have an opportunity to win. Hey, one other thing I just want to give you before we hop off.
We ain't done yet, but go ahead.
I know, but I got to get it in here. I don't know where it needs to go.
Go ahead.
I need to give you some of that 9/11 love, because I was talking to my boss this morning. He told me that you was a newt. And I know we're going to talk about the black community, and I want to make sure that the D9 community knows that the way for me to get the black vote out is through the D9 organizations, and I own it. I put it 100% on me of not getting that vote out. So I'm not pushing back on our community here, but I got to do better.
No, but I heard the point you raised earlier, and I quoted Jesse Jackson when Jesse would often say that we lose too many elections by the margin of our absence at the polls. I know that resonates with you. So what can be done better next time around to get black voters to turn out in this district and make some history here?
Yeah, Brother Samuel Jackson did a video for me in the last few days before the election, which was awesome. And we sent it to every African-American registered voter in the district. But people wouldn't even tracking that we actually had an election.
Yeah.
Okay. It was Easter. It was also spring break.
Yeah.
I understand everybody's not following politics. So what we're going to do this time, we're looking at all the lessons that we've learned. We're working with all the African-American organizations, churches, NAACP, D9, everybody, and we're making sure that we're talking to everybody in this district to ensure that 75,000 registered African Americans will come out and vote for me in December. And I take that and take everything else that I'm getting, and that's how we're going to win this election.
Yep. So for those who, again, have not been following this as closely as we are, the reason why you hear Shawn talking about running again is because, again, this was a special election. So they got to stand again for a traditional election, not just a special election. So there is another election coming down the road in November. But for now, I am pleased to have had Shawn Harris back on this program to explain, again, how he shifted this district, Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, by 25 points to the left. We will see what happens the next time around as he mobilizes voters in this district and tries to increase the black turnout. So, Shawn, my sense is this ain't the last time we're going to talk, man.
No, it's not. It's not.
All right.
We are laser focused on winning this thing. And what else I would tell you before we get off, they spent $2.3 million on me already. By them spending money on me on a Ruby Red district is helping every other Democrat in the nation, because now they got to focus on what we're doing here in Northwest Georgia, and that's going to help somebody else in another district somewhere in the United States.
Shawn Harris, I thank you for your time, sir. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Good to have had you on. You are not going to believe this, but Donald Trump has just spoken at the White House about that depiction that he posted of him as Jesus. he's trying to explain what he meant to say. And he says that what he meant to say with the post was that he was depicting himself as a doctor. Now, you looking like Jesus, you got a robe on like Jesus, you laying hands on people like Jesus, but his argument is, no, I wasn't trying to be Jesus, because the pushback is growing. I was depicting myself as a doctor. I'm going to let you hear Trump explain it. That's just me telling you what he said, but you should hear it from Trump in his own words, which you will when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
We're at Doolin's on Crenshaw. It's a special place where the neighborhood comes together. Got the fried chicken, the catfish, the candied yams, the mac and cheese. It's all delicious. I'm Isaac Bryan. I represent the Crenshaw District in the California State Legislature, and I'm supporting Tom Steyer for governor of California. California is under attack, and we need a fighter who's going to come in on day one and stand up for California values and push back. That person is Tom Steyer. Tom and I have been fighting together for the better part of a decade. Tom is the only candidate supported by smart justice, because Tom has stood on the front lines of racial justice, economic justice, and true solidarity. Tom is the real deal. He's the only candidate in the race with a comprehensive plan to make the billionaires and the corporations pay their fair share so we can fund things like universal health care and education. He means what he says, and he does what we need. This is a moment when we've got to fight fire with fire, and I believe that that fire is Tom Steyer.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
My son loves to fly kites, but my active psoriatic arthritis can sometimes hold me back. Now with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm ready to go. Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults, helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this. Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
All right, here we go again. The Donald Trump spin is in. The spin is in. So we have been talking on today's program about Donald Trump, among other things, depicting himself as Jesus in a meme that he posted on Truth Social. Here he is outside, it's outside. He's at the White House colonnade. He's outside the Oval Office, and he is trying to explain what he intended when he posted this depiction. This is Donald Trump in his own words. Take a listen.
It wasn't a depiction. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better.
It's supposed to be him as a doctor making people better, not a depiction of Jesus. That was so Miles. That was so funny. Can I hear that again, please?
It wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better.
So it's not a depiction of him as Jesus, but him as a doctor. So now it ain't Jesus. He's a Red Cross worker. So that's the spin we get now. So the pushback builds and grows, and the spin is that it was him as a Red Cross worker, a doctor, trying to heal people, not him depicting himself as Jesus. But the glow is all over his head. I mean, again, if you haven't seen this, just Google it for yourself, and you tell me whether or not you've ever seen any Red Cross worker in that kind of frame, laying hands on people, healing people. Again, I say it every day. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. Anyway, I digress for now. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. The NTSB is investigating after a small plane was forced to make an emergency landing on a busy Arizona street. Phoenix Fire Department captain said no vehicles or buildings were hit. This passenger said they're lucky to be alive.
He saved our lives, basically, and we're a little bit banged up, but we're okay.
It's not clear what caused the malfunction. 100 Black Men of Central Ohio is establishing a fund in the name of Ohio Air National Guard Master Sergeant Tyler Simmons. The Columbus, Ohio native was one of 6 service members killed in an air refueling crash in the Middle East last month. And drivers in downtown Nashville are raising questions after videos showing Waymo's self-driving vehicles stopping or slowing traffic days after the official launch. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Now that the NBA regular season is over, here's what's on the menu for the Lakers and Clippers. The Lakers are meeting up with the Houston Rockets in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. Game 1 in the best of 7 is Saturday at Crypto.com, 5:30 p.m. tip-off. The Clippers are the number 9 seed in the play-in round. That means they will have to win 2 games to make the playoffs. First game is Wednesday night against Golden State at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, 7 p.m. tip-off. If the Clippers win, they would play Friday night at Phoenix or at Portland. The WNBA draft is tonight. The 3-round event starts at 4:30 on ESPN. No first-round pick for the LA Sparks because of a trade with the Seattle Storm in 2024. 4 UCLA players are projected to go in the first round. Lauren Betts, Kiki Rice, Gianna Neekins, and Gabriela Jaquez. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
The Mighty Mighty OJs on Tavis Smiley. Sounding good today. We are in the final hour of today's program, and in this hour, as promised, two conversations on the backside of this hour. Jenique Jones, Executive Director of Why Hunger, comes live in the studio to explain why hunger is not inevitable in this country, the richest nation in the history of the world, and how wage equity, profit reinvestment, and updated poverty thresholds could, in fact, strengthen food security here in this country. But we commenced this hour talking about fighting for a foothold, how government and markets undermine black middle-class suburbia. The author of that text, Dr. Angela Sims, joins us right now. Dr. Sims, how are you today?
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, that sounds horrible. Let's try that again. It sounds like you're underwater. Dr. Sims, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound horrible. Miles, let's fix that. Somebody. That ain't going to work for 30 minutes. Again, I wanted her on because, as you can see, these conversations back-to-back in this hour are going to dovetail quite nicely. Again, we'll talk to Jenique Jones in studio here in about 25 minutes when she comes in about why, in fact, hunger is not, as I said, inevitable in this country. But there's a way in which we are in a moment right now where the black middle class is catching it. Now, I get bothered, as you've heard me say many times, by the way we always talk about the black middle class and not about the poor, much less the working poor. But it's abundantly clear to me with every data point that I look at that Donald Trump's agenda is a direct threat to the black middle class. We could start and end this conversation with just all those 300,000 black folk or so who lost their jobs working for the federal government when Elon Musk came in with that drama. And so a lot of black people got pushed out then. That has had a huge and significant impact and effect on the black middle class. And even beyond that, you see the Trump administration most recently going after affirmative action in contracting. He signed an executive order, you may recall, that we talked about a couple of weeks ago on this program, going after affirmative action policies in government contracting. That follows, of course, the Supreme Court doing away with affirmative action in higher education. So at every level of American life, at every level of human endeavor, they're trying to do away with corrective programs that are designed to level the playing field on which we are playing. And so, again, the evidence is incontrovertible to me that this agenda run by this administration is a direct threat to the black middle class. And so into that frame steps Angela Sims, Assistant Professor of Sociology and Urban Studies at Barnard College-Columbia University, former legislative analyst for the Bush and Obama administrations. Her book is called, once again, Fighting for a Foothold, How Government and Markets Undermine Black Middle Class Suburbia. And I think we got this straightened out. Professor Sims, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Much better, much better. You sounded underwater the first time, and that wasn't going to work. So now I can hear you, and we can advance with this conversation. First of all, before I get into the book, I want to make most of the 20 or so minutes that we have here. Before I get straight away into the text, tell me about the backstory for writing this and why you felt the need to push this one out.
Sure. I am someone who comes from the policy world. I worked in the George W. Bush and Barack Obama administration, so come from a world of understanding what government can and can't do. Mm-hmm. And so as someone with that background and as a black middle-class woman myself, I was interested in telling a full story about essentially how the economic and political systems of this country have been designed not for black people to thrive, but for us to be the basis for white people thriving. And that's not to say that all white folk benefit to the same degree, but if you think about slavery to the present moment, we have not been incorporated on just terms. And so this book, I hope, shows us how even black people who play by the rules, who move to suburbia, who have middle-class jobs, college degrees, they still don't win. And so the book really sets up, I hope, a conversation around what kinds of policies we should be designing that enable all Americans to thrive.
We'll talk in a moment here about why we still don't win. But as you were answering that first question, my mind, for some reason, went straight to Mario Cuomo, former governor of New York State, who wrote a book years ago that I have on my bookshelf all these years later. The book was called Reason to Believe. That's the name of it, Reason to Believe. And in this book, Mario Cuomo goes into a real serious conversation, a debate about the proper role of government. Here you come now saying that there are things that government can do and government can't do. What's your read, broadly speaking, philosophically? What's your read of the debate that we find ourselves in now about what the proper role of government is, what it can do and what it ought not be trying to do?
I think this is a perennial question in terms of what our political and economic system should do. If we take a step back and think about what a political system is, it is a system that's designed for us to deliberate as the people about how we want to have the rules set up for us in terms of human relationships. And also the economic system is, making sure we're meeting our material needs. And so I think when we consider what government ought to do, we should be thinking in both pragmatic terms and in philosophical terms about how we make sure that we're holding authority accountable and thinking about the excesses, like the violence that it can enact on the people, which certainly we have seen recently, but also thinking about the capacities that government is uniquely designed to meet, right? So the government can coordinate, the government can mandate, the government can ensure, systems of various scales and levels of coordination can be brought together to meet the needs of, at this point, over 300 million people in our country. So I do believe that we have a role for the state, but I think what has been very disheartening for people is to see the abuse of the state by those in power to meet their own ends and the failure of the state to ensure broadly shared prosperity as opposed to the prosperity of the few at the expense of the many. So I think sometimes we conflate our grievances with the government with, essentially how government has been used by people in power to be abusive rather than expansive in terms of it setting the stage for all of us to have our needs met.
Since you uniquely worked for George W. Bush and Barack Obama, I think I can ask this question and get a straightforward answer about the way in which Donald Trump is shifting the role of government. Whatever one thinks about what the proper role of government ought to be, and you've just eloquently described the frame, the range of what government can do. What ought we make of the way that Donald Trump is changing that answer? I'll put another way, shifting the proper role of government. I want to get your take on that, and then we'll go straight way inside this book. It's called Fighting for a Foothold, How Government and Markets Undermine Black Middle-Class Suburbia. You already heard Professor Sims suggest earlier that even when black folk play by the rules, we still don't win. Why is that? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
BET and PBS, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and NPR, the cover of Jet and the cover of Time. #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, 20 honorary doctorate degrees, a dozen NAACP Image Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. From talk shows to talk radio, nobody's ever done it better. You like that? This is Tavis Smiley.
Can we just talk?
Tavis Smiley. You've heard me say it before, how we talk to one another matters. Earlier this year, we launched our first cohort, and I'm grateful to those who leaned in early and helped to shape the work. Now I'm inviting you to join me for a new live seminar, The Practice of Dialogue, Becoming a More Effective Communicator. This is a small group experience designed to help you strengthen how you communicate in your work, your relationships, and your everyday life. Space is limited to keep the experience personal and interactive. So if you're ready to take your communication to the next level, now is the time to focus on the skills that make conversations meaningful. The new 4-week cohort begins Monday, May 4th, and there's a nice discount for early bird registrants. Visit TavisTalks.com to learn more and reserve your place today. That's TavisTalks.com, because better conversations don't just happen, we practice them.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
You know, 5 years goes fast when you're doing something you love. 5 years of being right there with you, in your car, in your kitchen, at work, in your earbuds. And we don't take that for granted, not for a second. When it came time to celebrate our 5th anniversary, we knew it had to mean something. And we're celebrating on the most fitting day there is, Juneteenth. We're still putting the finishing touches on something really special. And before we tell the world, we want to tell you first. Once we announce this event publicly, we expect that seats are going to go fast, really fast. So, go to our website right now at KBLA1580.com and sign up to make sure you're the very first to hear what we've got planned. Before we go public with all the details, you've been riding with us. It's only right you're first to know. KBLA1580.com. We'll see you on Juneteenth for our 5th anniversary banger. Banger, banger, banger.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that catch-up.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Her new book is called Fighting for a Foothold, How Government and Markets Undermine Black Middle-Class Suburbia. The author of that book is our guest right now. Dr. Angela Sims is a professor of sociology and urban studies at Barnard College-Columbia University, worked in both the George W. Bush and Barack Obama administrations. This book puts a spotlight on Prince George's County, Maryland. Do not call it PG County unless you want to get cussed out. It shines a spotlight on Prince George's County, Maryland. We'll let her talk about that and take us straightway inside the text in just a moment after she answers, I should say, after I ask a couple questions right quick here. Tell me quickly what your read is of the way in real time the current administration is shifting the role of government as we know it or certainly have known it, Dr. Sims.
I think the last part of your statement right there really captures it, as we've known it. And I think the question is who's known it. In many ways, the authoritarianism that we're seeing from this administration is something that Black people have been living with since the beginning of this country. If we start with slavery, right, we did not have autonomy over our own bodies, right? We had to assert our own humanity. And so in many ways, I think what Donald Trump is doing is bringing to the broader American public many of the elements that Black Americans have been experiencing since the beginning of this country. So I think we can actually see that Donald Trump is not in some ways doing things new. Certainly he's using the technologies of this moment. Certainly he's galvanized certain kinds of business actors to support him in doing certain kinds of things. The military-industrial complex, we can see that. But if we really think about the history of this country, it's never been a democracy for all citizens, particularly if you look at Black Americans, Indigenous Americans, people who are on their way to becoming citizens or who may never have the opportunity to do that. So I would actually caution us that Donald Trump is not an aberration, but fundamentally constitutive of this country's narrative, and we're just seeing an amplification of it and an extension of it. And now there are ways in which we can't hide it anymore, right? Before it was hidden because we didn't have all these technologies, because we didn't have a sense of expectation, some of us, of being treated properly. But I think even the Black middle class is realizing, as I'm arguing, that even when we play by these rules, we are still reminded, right, that this country has certain people in mind in terms of who will be the primary beneficiaries. So I would say that it's actually as regular as American pie in some ways.
Yep. I appreciate the response. I am sitting in a studio in Los Angeles right now. This program is heard across the country, but as you may know, I am based in L.A., and I'm literally I can throw a rock and hit it. I'm just around the corner from Baldwin Hills, View Park, Ladera Heights, an area that you know well. It is populated by a lot of well-to-do Black folk, a lot of middle-class Black folk living in these areas that make up the geographic space I just referenced. But across the country, there's Prince George's County, which is not that dissimilar in terms of the significant number of Black middle-class residents in that particular area. Tell me, before I get right into the book, why you chose to train your lens on Prince George's County for this text.
Yes, I chose Prince George's County because it's the local jurisdiction with the largest concentration of Black middle class people. So it's an extreme case, right? Because you have a local jurisdiction, a county with about 1 million people, and about 65% of them are African American, and the majority of them are middle class in terms of having a college degree and a white collar job. So certainly we can think about the Black middle class throughout the country. So as you just mentioned, Baldwin Hills in California, we can think about Atlanta is probably the other one that people think about in terms of high concentrations of Black folk. Houston, Charlotte. But Prince George's County gives us a way of thinking about how governing authority and economic capacity come together in a specific area that really enables Black people to have, we might say, the best running start at overcoming the history of slavery and Jim Crow and the contemporary forms of anti-Blackness and white domination. So I chose the county because it gives me that particular lens as a sociologist to think about these dynamics within our country in a unique way.
Unpack that phrase, a running start in Prince George's County.
Running start meaning that because you have, by the standards of this country, about 10%, or I shouldn't say standards, but the average of this country, about 10% of the U.S. population is at or below the poverty line. And so in Prince George's County, you have about that amount. So you don't have a high concentration of poverty. You have a high concentration, actually, of Black middle class people. You have Black governing authority since the 1990s. So that means Black people have the helm of government to control the decisions at every level at the local in this jurisdiction. So you really see this running start being one is over 30 years, right? So they've been at it for a while. Number two, you have affluent Black people, doctors, lawyers, engineers living here. So then the question becomes, when Black people have the political capacity and the economic capacity to the fullest extent that they can attain it in this country, what are the returns they receive relative to their white counterparts? And so to the degree that they can't receive the same returns, we actually see now the current mechanisms that are maintaining racial disparities, notwithstanding the claims to meritocracy in this country.
So in what ways then are the residents, these Black residents, these Black well-to-do residents of Prince George's County being treated unfairly?
The thesis is that it's very much baked into the daily and routine practices of governance and market governing policies and market practices. So specifically, I look at the tax base and the tax revenue generation of Prince George's County. And so the idea there is to think about what is it that local governments need in order to provide a high quality of life to their residents. So tax revenue is what you use, of course, to create everything from your schools to your roads to your clean drinking water. And so the idea there is that you're able to reveal then that they are not able to generate the amount of revenue they need for maintaining consistent high-quality public goods and services. And that's a function of policies like local property taxes, which essentially amplify the effects of racial capitalism. And racial capitalism is a profit generation for racial difference. And so by virtue, again, of the beginning of this country, the powers that be at that time, right, the planter class, the white elite men who created this country, they built their wealth on Black people's backs, literally and figuratively. So as we move forward, we've never really replaced that basic dynamic. So even now, what you see is things like property taxes reflecting the cumulative effects of those policies from slavery forward. So we can think about Jim Crow racism, where you segregated, separate was never equal. So Black folk were paying taxes but not getting any, the same kinds of investments that white folk were getting. We can think of the Social Security Act, where we were not getting the same kinds of benefits from government. We can think about the GI Bill. We can think about the federal housing policies that didn't insure mortgages in Black neighborhoods. So then when you decide that you're going to have one of the primary sources of revenue at the local level be something like property taxes, you're actually amplifying, you're bringing into the present those disparities that have been true about this country since the beginning, and you're essentially forcing Black jurisdictions to compete with white jurisdictions on uneven terms, right? They don't have the same tax base because of systemic underinvestment by market and government actors and continuing predation. We can see that with the foreclosure crisis, for example, with the Great Recession. And so then to tell them, not only have we, locked you out and extracted from you, but now we're going to make you use the very things that we have underinvested in to then be the basis for your current services really is, to me, a very obvious way of seeing how the Black middle class can't win, because you have not corrected the harm, nor have you envisioned a truly inclusive tax system. system designed for Black people to thrive.
So that if property taxes, which again, that's the standard. I mean, every county, every community that I'm aware of in this country, obviously local government we're talking about now, they rely heavily on these property taxes. So if these property taxes, this system of the way we do it, is inherently unfair or disadvantages Black communities, what's the alternative?
I think the alternative, with all of the right cautions around the harms the government can enact, as we just discussed earlier, I do think that the alternative is to think about the fact that since Nixon, we have been on a trajectory of taxing rich people less, even as they receive more from government, right? Like, tax day is coming up, this week, and we know that the tax breaks are designed for the wealthy, right? Not designed for the middle class and those of us lower on the socioeconomic ladder. So I do think that we need to remember that we need that what government can do at the federal and state level, which is transfer more money to local government so that local governments are less reliant on the revenue that they generate on their own so that we have more broadly shared prosperity. So we can think about things like the Community Development Block Grant, which used to be money that the federal government would give at a much larger scale that would just augment the capacities of local governments to meet their basic needs. State governments could also raise their taxes and, again, provide more to their local jurisdiction so you don't set up this competition within metropolitan areas such that, Prince George's County, for example, in the D.C. area is competing with Montgomery County and Fairfax County for investment and for residents. Because what ends up happening then is these local jurisdictions that are wealthier can end up competing and winning and having a hyper concentration of the upper middle class and wealthy people. And then the less capable jurisdictions, those that have the relatively, lower economic growth, they end up having disproportionate responsibility, not necessarily for poor people, which is what I'm showing in Prince George's County, but for more moderate income folks at that median. And so that's not at all to throw shade at people who are economically distressed. It is just to say that people with high economic needs at the household level require more from government. And so what we want to do is ensure that governments across all levels, federal, state, and local, are doing their part and not setting up dynamics that require local jurisdictions to compete in ways that undermine their ability to meet all residents' needs.
Like, give me some of the things that we can look at, Dr. Sims, things that we can look at that give us some sense that these particular communities, we're talking about Black communities in this case, are being forced to compete unfairly. Like when you see them falling behind in area A, B, C, D, or E, we know that there's a problem here. What are we looking at? What are we talking about?
I think some of the measures that I come up with in the book are useful. So what I look at as a sort of back-of-the-envelope conversation that I think we can certainly drill down on if we look at census data and other data across the country, but the way I did it in the D.C. metropolitan area is I compared Prince George's County to its wider, wealthier neighbors. So the two counties it borders, one is Montgomery County, Maryland, the other is Fairfax County, Virginia. And I look at the per capita and per pupil spending. So that's to say, how much are you spending per person? So that's literally the total budget divided by the population. And then how much are you spending per student? Because that is the largest expenditure at the local level. For most local jurisdictions, it's about 50 to 60%. In Prince George's County, it's about 65%. So then as we look at how much you're spending per person, that gives us a sense of how capable your government is of investing in your residents. And so when you look at starting with per pupil spending, alongside the number of students in poverty in Prince George's County, they have double the number of students who qualify for free and reduced price lunch, which is an indicator of economic stress at the household. So it's about 60% in Prince George's. In Montgomery and Fairfax counties, it's about 30%. And then we can also see that these local jurisdictions that neighbor Prince George's County do spend more per student. So that's talking about, orders of magnitude of about a few $100 million more. But importantly, also speaking of the history of Black jurisdictions, because of racial residential segregation, which in many ways are just the geographic coordinates of racial subordination, we know that Black jurisdictions have the scarring effects of desegregation. So when we remember, Brown is decided in 54. In 55, Brown 2 says all deliberate speed. We know that it was not speedy. We know it was a good 15 to 20 years before we even attempted desegregation. And then we know there was significant white flight. So this is when we see the role of local jurisdictions, because essentially white folk voted with their feet. They just left Black areas. So as we see Prince George's County elect its first county executive, as we see cities that are, the so-called chocolate cities elect their first mayors, you see these fiscal crises. Why? because white folk have taken the money with them, and they have this private investment that's disproportionately going to them. So we can look at the capacities of local government, as I just said, with per capita and per pupil spending. We can also see where does private industry invest, and we can also see where does the federal government, for example, and state government amplify these private investments. So I mentioned earlier federal policy for mortgages. So the Federal Housing Administration until 1968 did not insure mortgages in black neighborhoods. We were considered inherently too risky. Of course, that risk was created by the systemic underinvestment in our neighborhoods. But anyway, we were not insured. So when we think about two things there, we can think about one, white folk at the household level and the local jurisdiction level just have a head start on consistent investment in private and public resources over time. That means they don't have the scarring effects that we do. It also means at the household level, even when they don't have those public investments, they can compensate at the household level because of the wealth that they have, not only income, but wealth, being those assets that are over and above the salary. And so then in terms of the private industry, we end up seeing things like, okay, well, because you have this concentration of wealth in white neighborhoods, you will now attract certain kinds of investment for high-end commercial enterprises. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was saying I get it. I see the point you're making about how that investment is either drawn in like a magnet, or it ends up going someplace else. I take the point you make. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just saying, amen. I hear the point you're making, but I am out of time. The book is called Fighting for a Foothold, How Government and Markets Undermine Black Middle-Class Suburbia. It's a fascinating study of Prince George's County that reveals a lot of factoids about the ways in which race and money impact the way communities are funded or not, as it were. I highly recommend it. Once again, it's called Fighting for a Foothold, How Government and Markets Undermine Black Middle-Class Suburbia. The author of that book is Dr. Angela Sims, professor of sociology and urban studies at Barnard College-Columbia University, formerly worked in both the Bush and Obama administrations. I'm delighted to have had her on this program. Dr. Sims, thank you for your time and for your work and witness in this, with regard to this text. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure to have had you on. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. The NTSB is investigating after a small plane was forced to make an emergency landing on a busy Arizona street. Phoenix Fire Department captain said no vehicles or buildings were hit. This passenger said they're lucky to be alive.
He saved our lives, basically, and we're a little bit banged up, but we're okay.
It's not clear what caused the malfunction. 100 Black Men of Central Ohio is establishing a fund in the name of Ohio Air National Guard Master Sergeant Tyler Simmons. The Columbus, Ohio native was one of 6 service members killed in an air refueling crash in the Middle East last month. And drivers in downtown Nashville are raising questions after videos showing Waymo's self-driving vehicles stopping or slowing traffic days after the official launch. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Now that the NBA regular season is over, here's what's on the menu for the Lakers and Clippers. The Lakers are meeting up with the Houston Rockets in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. Game 1 in the best of 7 is Saturday at Crypto.com, 5:30 p.m. tip-off. The Clippers are the number 9 seed in the play-in round. That means they will have to win 2 games to make the playoffs. First game is Wednesday night against Golden State at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, 7 p.m. tip-off. If the Clippers win, they would play Friday night at Phoenix or at Portland. The WNBA draft is tonight. The 3-round event starts at 4:30 on ESPN. No first-round pick for the LA Sparks because of a trade with the Seattle Storm in 2024. 4 UCLA players are projected to go in the first round. Lauren Betts, Kiki Rice, Gianna Neekins, and Gabriela Jaquez. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is connecting you with services and solutions. Domestic violence and family violence is when someone in an intimate or family relationship tries to gain or maintain power and control over another through a wide range of abusive behaviors. Every single act may amount to abuse. Abuse can take on various forms: psychological and emotional, physical and economic, and sexual abuse. The Jenique Center Incorporated is a nationally recognized nonprofit domestic violence prevention and intervention organization, housing women and children from 30 days up to 2 years through emergency and transitional shelters. The Jenique Center also provides support services like mental health counseling, life skills classes, computer training, job referrals, after-school programs for children, field trips, tutoring, and comprehensive direct legal services. If you need help or you'd like to donate or volunteer, call the Jenique Hotline, 1-800-479-7328. That's 1-800-479-7328, or visit Jenique.org. Everyone has the right to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Fig Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot-stomping, heart-stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed. We are pleased to welcome in the studio Jenique Jones, who's Executive Director of Why Hunger, to explain why hunger is not inevitable and how wage equity, profit reinvestment, and updated poverty thresholds could strengthen food security in America. Pleased to welcome again Jenique Jones in studio. Jenique Jones, how are you today?
I'm doing well, and how are you doing, sir?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm doing well, and I'm glad to have you come by and see us. Let me start with this. For those who have not heard of Why Hunger and the great work that it does, tell me first about Why Hunger.
Why Hunger was started almost 51 years ago by the late, great Harry Chapin. Anyone who knows Cats in the Cradle knows Harry Chapin.
Oh, yeah.
And his partner, Bill Ayers. And basically, Harry would go around and be like, I don't understand why people are hungry. You know, he's touring, and he's like, this is the richest country in the world. Why are there people who don't have food? And he had a motto, if you know, when in doubt, do something. So he started this organization, and it was called Why Hunger Year. He thought he was going to fix it in a year, but here we are.
Yeah.
And the idea is that what we know is hunger's not inevitable. Hunger's a policy choice. And so Why Hunger exists to tackle the systematic causes of hunger, right? We believe, yes, give people food for the day, but that's not going to solve the problem. So we really work particularly to look at marginalized communities, because we know that your race, your gender, all where you live, all of those things have a bigger impact on whether or not you're going to have to be able to put food on your table.
Broadly speaking, what kind of progress or not have we made in those 51 years on this issue?
Communities have gotten better at addressing things that affect them. But as a society, we have not gotten better. I would say we've gone backwards. You know, people's ability to access, and I'm saying this, healthy food has gotten worse.
Right.
You know, we've commercialized a lot of our farming and pushed out a lot of local farmers and things like that, so it's harder to get the food. So now the only thing you can do is, especially if you live in a low-income neighborhood, is go to your grocery store and get the lettuce that's going to be bad in 12 hours.
Yeah. Why do you think, no naivete here, but why do you think for an issue that is as important as I think this ought to be, that we've gone backwards? It's one thing to say that we've not made the progress that we thought we would have made in half a century. It's another thing to say we've done a U-turn. And that's a strong indictment. Why have we made this U-turn? How did we make this U-turn?
Well, because the people who are affected are the people who have the least power. You know, we're talking about poor folks. We're talking about, women. We're talking about folks of color, immigrants. And so when you're talking about those people, and then you're looking at the people on the other side who have the money, the political, they're in the politics and all these other things, they're going to have the power. It's the same reason we've seen the wages of CEOs skyrocket while everyone else's wages stay, at a flat line. So, and we do have power. We just don't exercise it the way we should be.
Yep. You referenced earlier that we are still wrestling with this issue primarily because of policy choices, policy decisions. Tell me more about these bad policy choices we made over the last half century.
Well, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about the fact that the minimum wage hasn't been raised since 2009. There was a time when you could actually work a job in a McDonald's or somewhere like that and actually make a living, at least, and you can't do that now. You have to work 2, 3, 4 jobs if you're not in, a higher income bracket, higher income level kind of job. And even then, you have people who are working in the middle class who go to food pantries. There are people in New York City making $70,000 a year who are at food pantries because that's how expensive it is. So even if we just raise the minimum wage to where it should be at this point, we'd be in a different space. Or you look at our defense budget is over $900 billion. Our SNAP budget is $100 billion. If we just gave people who are already on SNAP a little bit more money, it still wouldn't come anywhere close to what they're talking about raising the defense budget to in the next fiscal year.
Over $1 trillion, yeah. I get bothered, and bothered isn't really a strong enough word, but it's deeply troubling for me that in 2026 we've accepted the language of the poor in this country. What I mean by accepting the language, we use this term, the working poor, as if it has to be that way. If you work, you ought not to be poor. But what does it say to you that our language around hunger, our language around poverty is frankly bankrupt itself? Does that make sense?
No, it does. Yeah. It does. And I think it's kind of thing when people say people are food insecure. They're not insecure. That's not the language at all, but it sounds nicer than hungry. And so I think what we have to do is be honest about the issue, the people, and we have to get honest about the fact that this has been a problem for 70 years. This is not a new problem. The first White House conference on hunger happened when Johnson was in office, so this is not a new issue. And so we can't keep solving it, quote unquote, with all these old tactics.
Yeah. Who do we indict in this regard? And you mentioned Johnson. Johnson, of course, was a Democrat, and since that time we've had Democrat and Republican presidents. And I'm just, in my mind, just going over who all has been in that office, the Oval Office, over the last 51 years since Why Hunger got started. Who do we indict here? Is this? I often say that Washington is bought and bossed by big money and big business, and everybody is indicted in that particular statement. But who do we indict for hunger run amok all these years later in this country?
Everybody.
Yeah.
Honestly, there is no boogeyman, and it's not just the administration, because we keep voting these people in, right? But I think at some point, I'm thinking about the elections in Hungary, where they had 80% participation. Imagine if we had that here, right? We voted in Reagan, who put in a lot. I mean, we're still paying for stuff he did, right? We did that. Well, I didn't do it because I was 4, but somebody did it. And we don't hold people accountable. And sometimes even when we get people in who look like us or who we support, we're so happy to have them in that we don't want to challenge them. We don't want to say, why aren't you doing more? So I say it's all of us.
On the issue of hunger specifically, I want to ask you this. Let me just tee this up now. When we come forward, I'll let you respond to it. On the issue of hunger, how do we hold folk accountable? Put another way, what does accountability look like on this particular issue? Because if you give me the issue, I can tell you what accountability looks like. This is your area of expertise. So when we come forward on the issue specifically of hunger, what does political accountability look like? That's the question for Jenique Jones. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for and there they go. Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Jenique Jones, who's executive director of the global organization Why Hunger. Pleased to have her in studio. So I asked you a moment ago, on this particular issue, what political accountability actually looks like, Jenique?
I mean, for one, we have folks who are just warming seats in Congress and in the Senate, you know, who aren't actually doing things, I would say, that are in the best interest of their constituents. You know, you have places where you have Congress people voting against people getting health care. And so why are they still in Congress? Why are they still in the Senate? You know, I think we have to say, we're going to vote you out. We have to start doing that. We also have to get out of this mindset of nothing is ever going to change. I think people have been so beaten down in submission that they're just willing to accept what is given. So I think if we're talking about political accountability, it is and it is having guardrails, right? It's saying, you know, we won't accept an elected official who's doing A, B, C, and D, or taking money from this corporation or that corporation. You know, I think we also have to demand more ethics and accountability. I don't understand how people go into elected office and they're worth $100,000 and they leave and they're worth $7 million. Something isn't right there. So I think we have to be able to make sure that the reason people are getting into these offices is to do the work that they say they're going to do.
On the public policy front, help me understand what we ought to be pushing, what we ought to be advancing public policy-wise vis-a-vis the issue of hunger in this country.
So I would say, one is if we even increase, it's right now, average person, it costs them about $300 a month for groceries per person. The SNAP amount people get at most is maybe $150, $180 to cover their groceries. And people say, oh, well, it's meant to be supplemental. But if you're living below the poverty line, supplemental is not going to cut it, right? So what if we made people whole? And I know this is a big number. That's $50 billion more dollars. That would mean $150 billion a year, as opposed to the $999 billion we're given for defense budget. That's 40% of our discretionary federal spending. So I think that's making people at least who are on at the lowest levels of poverty, because most of those folks are in poverty, whole. I think we can also talk about health care, right? Because how many people are choosing between their medicine, their health care, or you got the medicine, but you need food to take it. So when we have these conversations around universal health care, it's not just about health care, it's also about food. It's also about money. I think we have to start advocating for those things.
What is to be done about these so-called food deserts that people of color find themselves, too many people of color, too many poor people find themselves occupying?
I wouldn't even say we have food deserts now. I think we have, there's food, it's just not good food. Like I said, there are places that are considered food deserts that have supermarkets, but the quality of the food is not up to par. You talk about why, you ask people who are low income, why don't you buy fresh fruits and vegetables? I've gone into different stores as a part of my work. I go into the store in the wealthy neighborhood. You get your good food. It lasts a week. Your fruits and vegetables last a week. Or you go to the farmer's market or anything like that. I go to the place in Flatbush where I used to live, and you know those fruits and vegetables go bad in 2 days. So it's also about what we're also putting into those communities and why we're putting that food into those communities in that way. It's also more expensive, surprisingly. The food in the poorer neighborhoods actually costs more than the food in the more wealthy neighborhoods. So I would also say we need to put some things in place that ensure that that's not happening. There has to be some policies around how we are moving our food, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and we have to get out of this mindset of almost like deficit thinking when it comes to poor people, right? We think, we got to give them nutrition education. No, you got to give them some money.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give them a living wage.
Yeah, it is always fascinating to me. The things that we think people need, rather than meeting them where they are, or how about just asking them what they need for starters. Anyway, I digress. Our remaining moments with Jenique Jones when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
We're at Doolin's on Crenshaw. It's a special place where the neighborhood comes together. Got the fried chicken, the catfish, the candied yams, the mac and cheese. It's all delicious. I'm Isaac Bryan. I represent the Crenshaw District in the California State Legislature, and I'm supporting Tom Steyer for governor of California. California is under attack, and we need a fighter who's going to come in on day one and stand up for California values and push back. That person is Tom Steyer. Tom and I have been fighting together for the better part of a decade. Tom is the only candidate supported by smart justice because Tom has stood on the front lines of racial justice, economic justice, and true solidarity. Tom is the real deal. He's the only candidate in the race with a comprehensive plan to make the billionaires and the corporations pay their fair share so we can fund things like universal health care and education. He means what he says, and he does what we need. This is a moment when we've got to fight fire with fire, and I believe that fire is Tom Steyer.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: skills first hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Jenique Jones, who's executive director of the global organization Why Hunger. Started 51 years ago, and here we are half a century later still trying to deal with issues of hunger, as she mentioned earlier. We can call it food insecurity. That's real, but it just sounds better to the ear than hunger, and I always laugh at the ways in which we want to tweak our language in this country, but I digress on that for now. We'll talk about the middle class, but not about poverty. We'll talk about food insecurity. We won't say hunger. So, ain't nobody naive or stuck on stupid. I get it. But here's the real rub. I was saying to Jenique during the break that we see from a variety of different places and agencies that this war that Donald Trump has gotten us in is increasing food prices, increasing food insecurity, if you will. Over the time that Donald Trump has been president, food prices have gone up. He campaigned heavily on food prices. Remember the whole thing about the eggs, the price of eggs? He campaigned heavily on food prices when he ran. and yet he is not delivered in that regard. In fact, there's data that suggests that, again, food insecurity around the U.S. has risen over the last year. So he campaigned on it. He hasn't delivered on it. Food prices have gone up since he's been there, and now they're going up even more so because of this war. It sounds to me, Jenique Jones, like things are going to get worse before or if they get better.
Oh, we're going to be in this for a minute, right? Yeah. Because what people don't understand is everything is connected, right? And so you mentioned the eggs. The eggs got better, but that's because now the birds aren't sick because it was also the avian flu. But everything else is going up. And when you raise gas prices, that's how food moves.
That's right.
That's how food moves across the country. So when gas is sick, I was coming, in today to the studio, $6 a gallon. So where does that cost is going to get put on the consumer?
Yep.
Right? So you're going to have that happen. That's also going to mess up supply chains. There's going to be less supply, which also means the costs go up. It's all connected. And then it's the same reason why we talk about climate change. Like a lot of the stuff work we do is about changing the way people are farming, going back to more of sustainable farming. Because what we know is all the industrial farming impacts the climate, which then impacts the system, right? All of that is connected, but people like to in the same way they like to play with language, they like to isolate things.
Sure, of course.
And you have to see it through to its conclusion.
Well, the dots are in fact connected, and I'm glad that there are some people, some organizations, some institutions that actually care about issues like hunger and are not afraid to call it what it is. The organization is called Why Hunger. She's the exec director of this organization. Her name is Jenique Jones, and I'm honored to have had her in studio just to keep this front of mind for those of us who listen to this program across the country. Jenique, thank you for your work and your witness. Good to have you in studio.
Thank you.
Just like that, 3 hours are gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until tomorrow, thanks for listening to Tavis Smiley. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. The NTSB is investigating after a small plane was
Black Power.
The heat is on.
On the air and in the culture. KBLA Talk 1580. Stay connected. Stay informed. Stay loud.
Stand up!
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr.